Well, that really was a spectacular day of weightlifting, but before we go, we've got time to just look over some of the most spectacular anal prolapses we've seen today. Is it a brutal moment of self-realisation? Is this the exact moment when he suddenly thinks, am I a dick?
I'm not being fair, I don't really know who he is.
First subject is transport. Who wants to come in that? Miles.
Yes, transport, public transport. Why is public transport so horrendous? Well, the clue is in the question, isn't it? It's the public. You're horrific. I don't take public transport terribly often, but sometimes I do it for a dare. Some friends and I once had a competition to see who could stay for the longest on a night bus without vomiting. Although, once I got on the bus, it was quite clear that all the other passengers were involved in a similar competition. None of them were doing terribly well. My seat had a sign next to it saying, "This seat is particularly appreciated by the elderly and infirm." Yeah, certainly smelt like it. Well, what a journey. Every time somebody pressed the stop button, it pinged. The oik sitting next to me stood up because he thought his McCain's microwavable chips were ready. Brutal. Anyway, while I've been speaking, I imagine a lot of the ladies in here have been looking at me. Possibly, you know, you're thinking, is he or isn't he? Well, I've got to be honest with you, ladies, I am looking for a cleaner. Look at all these athletes in peak physical condition. If I could see just one of them naked, I would die happy.
The subject is clubbing. Who wants to talk about that? Miles.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you can all tell I'm a bit of a clubber. Nothing I like more than getting down to the local hotspot and shaking the old batty and ting, a bit of shawaddy-waddy. Don't mind if I do. No, I have tried night clubbing. It's not really my thing. I'm a bit too delicate, my system. I was in a nightclub recently. A fellow young raver danced up and shouted, "I'm loving it, loving it, loving it!" I replied, "I'm finding it all a bit noisy, finding it all a bit noisy, finding it all a bit noisy." People jump around like crazy in those places. At one point, my cup and saucer was knocked clean out of my hand. It's tricky. I mean, I've tried the dancing. That's not my thing either. I don't care if I haven't got sexy Latin rhythms. I've got a Latin A-level. Much more transferable in the job market. I was on the dance floor recently. A lot of my fellow young ravers were blowing whistles, so I joined in and gave a bloody good pop on my bugle. Unfortunately, that meant half the Bosworth Hunt came charging in across the dance. Hounds mistook 3 of the ginger students for foxes, and there was a hell of a mess.
Thank you very much, Miles Jupp.
And the subject is health. Who wants to come in on that? Miles.
OK, well, health. I have recent experience of the medical profession. My wife and I, we have a little baby, and we had a home birth. If you mention the idea even of a home birth to people of an older generation, they're always instantly terrified, but that's just a generational thing, like racism and not indicating on roundabouts. They don't realise there's another way forward. But I myself, I have to say, quite nervy about the idea. On the one hand, I thought, is our sitting room really the safest place for us to have a newborn child, right? On the other hand, I did think it would be an excellent opportunity for us to get some new carpets. Perhaps take advantage of our extremely comprehensive home and contents policy. I waited till the head was showing. You've got to be sensitive. And then I tiptoed into the next room and got straight onto the phone to our insurance people. You know, I was excited. I mean, I was giving all the measurements I'd done them months ago, but they were, you know, a lot of questions. They asked a lot of questions, the insurance people. They wanted to know why my wife had attempted to give birth in every room in the house.
Thank you very much. Subject is hospitals. Who wants to come in on Miles?
Hospitals. I can understand why some people think that they're a good idea. I really dislike them. I think hospitals are terrifying places to be. I've had several general anaesthetics over the last year. I'm terrified of all of these things. I think hospitals, they are basically they are grey buildings full of people who are dead, about to be, overworked, stressed out, or asking for change for the car parking facilities. That's all they... I can't understand, therefore, why, even now, even today, we have this thing where the idea that a nurse's uniform is considered sexy. Now, I've got no doubt whatsoever that lots and lots of nurses themselves... I should imagine some of them unbelievable creatures. But the idea... But the idea that the outfit itself is sexy. And yet, if you wander into a sex shop, either, deliberately or, you might have some sort of job that involves touring, you've constantly got to go and ask directions in places. Still, people are buying nurses' uniforms as a sexy outfit. What is sexy about a nurse's uniform? Surely a nurse's uniform, that just screams hospital at you. Who's at home going, oh, I'll tell you what, darling, could you dress up as a nurse for me tonight? You dress up as a nurse. I want you to remind me of the time I had a length of my bowel removed. Would you do that for me? Would you? Go on, I'll tell you what, when you put that on, act like a naughty nurse. Go on, act like a naughty nurse. A naughty nurse is one that doesn't wash their hands. That smothers you with a pillow, having subtly encouraged you to alter your own will.
This place is rubbish, said Edmund. Doesn't anybody have sex here? Oh, yes, said Aslan. What do you think the griffins are for?
The first subject is showbiz. Who wants to come in on that? Jupp.
Well, what can I tell you about show business? Almost nothing. No, in fact, it's very nice to see an audience. To be perfectly honest, that's not always been the case. I remember doing a gig about 12 years ago in Edinburgh. I was doing a gig one night, and there was one person in the audience. The entire audience was made up of one person, right? And in those days, I was in a double act, right? Now, if you're in an opera or something and you and the orchestra outnumber the audience, there is possibly some dignity involved. If you're in a double act and you outnumber the audience, that is pretty much the bleakest thing that can happen, right? But we went for it because we were young and keen. Jupp and George, we were called. He's a policeman now, no longer allowed to be amusing. We were going for it. It was actually going all right, but after about 5 minutes, the audience. He put his hand up, and we said, what is it, Joe? He said, I'm really sorry to do this to you, but I have to go to the lavatory. We had to wait for him to come back. And the sumo wrestler grunts as his opponent enters the ring. Pretty sure that move's illegal. Is it pick an arbitrary length of time?
How dare you talk like that about my mother?
My mum's ruined mangoes, my dad's ruined baths. Between us, we're in this country.
Oh, I think we've just scraped off a layer there. Is that a story from your childhood? What's going on?
A couple of weeks ago from the
I see. Oh, right. Don't watch myself.
No, I know.
The first subject is travel. Miles.
I'll tell you what's wrong with trains. It's the quiet coach, OK? Quiet, that is an adjective. It doesn't go far enough. Quiet is an adjective. It should be called the silent coach, shouldn't it? The silent coach. No one would have any trouble understanding that. It's the silent coach, right? You can't talk on it, you can't use your laptop, children can't travel on it, you can't eat crisps, and crucially, the train people, they wouldn't be allowed to make announcements. Because the sort of people that have the mentality to travel on the quiet coach, which is the correct mentality, are the sort of people who check where the train is going before they bloody get on it. For years, we've just not got these things right. Mock the Week audience, you're exactly the sort of people that know what I'm talking about. In Russia, during the revolution, right? During the Russian Revolution, the Russian army was able to travel to all of its battles by train. During a revolution, they were still able to rely on public transport. Imagine if we had a revolution now and the army had to rely on transport, we'd be buggered, wouldn't we? Certainly those of us who wanted the army to win. Absolute nightmare, wouldn't it? Marston Moor 2016 kicked off. You know, the British Army turning up 7 hours late to every single conflict. You know. Oh, sorry, there were leaves on the line at Stevenage. There was a passenger action at Crewe. We were going to be joined by the SAS, but they've been stuck on a rail replacement bus service in Horrocks.
What might we be sending out via smartphones next year?
Oh, this is a good one. This is smells. You can sell smells over your iPhone.
Yes.
It's brilliant, isn't it? If you fart in a meeting, you know, just blame your phone. You know, somebody sent me a farticon. I'll just turn that off, you know.
You're going to say it's going to be great when Obama finally picks up the phone and goes, Dave, I can smell pasta, you in Trago Mills?
We don't need it, do we? Like, it's this constant thing of, like, making things that nobody is being on the phone to someone and go, do you know what would make this so much easier to understand what you're on about? If I could smell you.
There is a good use for it. For instance, if you're seriously into collecting your cheeses, you don't actually keep them in your own house. You keep them at someone who owns a cheesery, and you say, you know, you ring up and you say, how's my camembert doing? And he goes, well, I can let you know. And he goes and he calls it and he texts you, you know, where, you know, you think, well, that needs another 10 years, that sort of thing.
Do you genuinely phone up? Do you genuinely check on your cheese?
No, mate, I'm improvising.
I don't know how the other half live.
You might well be a Blade Runner, Ryan, but in this house we do not run with scissors.